The ability to effectively communicate in the work environment gives you more credibility both with your peers and with your boss. The development of effective communication skills takes time and practice. Whether you write an email to your manager or give a presentation to a potential client, your communication skills are critical to the achievement of your goals and objectives. The members of our team have worked in a variety of professional environments, such as high tech product development, high tech sales, legal industry, hospitality, and nonprofits. As we sat down together to discuss communications, we noticed there were some common themes for how good business communication is structured. This video will highlight some ideas, tips, and perspectives about business communication skills that we have found to be useful in our professional careers. This video is organized in order of the least personal method of communication, which is the growing trend in today's business setting. This video may be especially helpful for younger professionals starting out, but can be just as applicable to seasoned veterans in the workforce.
Write these numbers down. 1, 45, and 50. In regards to communication, what do you think these numbers have in common? 1. Strong communication skills are among the top qualifications employers are looking for today. 45. People with 45% fewer grammar errors receive about twice as many promotions over a 10-year employment span. 50. Warren Buffett was noted saying that strong communication skills makes you 50% more valuable. Top leaders, from Bill Clinton to Bill Gates, are typically noted for their ability to communicate. Being able to effectively communicate in the work environment gives you more credibility. Every means of communication counts, and developing effective communication skills takes thought and practice. In order to help you get ahead and be recognized as an effective communicator, we are going to review several means of communication via email. Then we're going to relate email to instant message. We're going to cover telephone, video conference, and face-to-face. One thing that's consistent across all of these means of communication, whether you're writing an email to your boss or giving a presentation to a potential client, is that these means of communication need to be clear and concise.
You've got mail.
This day and age, we have to consider the means of the device and display the recipient is using to read or consume the message. Could it be a laptop, maybe a mobile phone, or even a smartwatch display on the go? You never know how your message might be consumed, nor the situation and the mood of the reader. I'm going to cover some key areas of consideration. Then we can review an actual email example and identify some areas of improvement together. Next, we will review 5 takeaways that might save us time and help us achieve our goals via this means of communication. Last, we will review some inbox and time management tips and tricks. Key areas of consideration. Always try to emphasize with your target readers or recipients and put yourself in their shoes. The average business email user sends 30 and receives 80 emails per day. At 110 or more emails per day, and with a likely attention span of maybe 8 seconds, that doesn't leave much time to accomplish your task of gaining an action item from your recipient. Get to the bottom line first. It's important to get to the point quickly, and often what is being requested can be addressed via the first sentence in the form of one question or in a request. Now that we've reviewed some key areas of consideration, let's actually take a look at an example and see if we can improve it together. What do you think of this email? How long does it take you to know what the sender is asking? Might setting the recipient up with expectations in advance of the content help frame things for the reader? How about the subject line? Let's take a look at this one. A simple adjustment of moving the question to the top of the email can help the reader quickly understand and address the action item. Also, bulleting the key points can help to organize thoughts and allow the reader to quickly scan the content. Did you also notice by chance the additions of "hi" and "I'd greatly appreciate your help"? Asking for help and adding friendly statements can help to set the mood and differentiate us from the other 80 emails an average recipient receives each day. We've reviewed 2 key areas of consideration around empathy and what is the ask, a before and after email example, and now we will discuss 5 takeaways that might help your personal productivity and overall response rates, and then we'll close with inbox management best practices. If possible, try to avoid email and use instant message, a quick phone call or an in-person discussion, then follow up with the action items along with a brief recap of the discussion, and when appropriate, corresponding timelines. Always double check email addresses and spelling, especially with the recipient's name. Grab attention and accurately capture the intent. Keep it simple. Get to the bottom line first and bullet point key areas of interest when possible. Always be careful with what you are documenting. Don't express emotions and maintain a positive tone. In regards to managing your inbox, don't live in your inbox. Schedule a few times a day that you might plan to review and respond to emails. When reviewing emails, think about what is urgent, maybe what's important, and most importantly, what's urgent and important. Try to drag every email into a task as an action item, where they can later be prioritized, or schedule it in your calendar. Everything else should be either deleted or stored in a long-term general reference folder, where it can later be retrieved via desktop search engine, keyword search, or otherwise.
Instant messaging at the workplace has grown in popularity, especially in the past 5 years or so. Companies use various instant messaging applications such as Yahoo Messenger, Skype, Link, and Google Chat to communicate and share information with their colleagues. Such applications allow coworkers to communicate in real time without placing a phone call or typing up an email. Communicating with several different teams in different offices or different countries through instant messaging is a very powerful tool when needing to send a quick, important message. There are several rules, however, that an employee should follow for proper etiquette. Firstly, it is important that the message you are sending is quick and brief. It should be used to immediately make a point or reach out to a colleague. Unlike emails, instant messages tend to be messages that require an immediate response. So if someone does IM you, it is best to respond as soon as possible. Most instant messaging applications used in the workplace show a user's status, such as available, away, in a meeting, etc. Therefore, if you are available, you should respond timely to an instant message sent to you. Furthermore, it is important for you to introduce who you are and what your role is when reaching out to someone who you have not met in person. It is also important to respect the recipient's time. Even if they are set to available, you should ask them if they have a moment to speak with you regarding your issue or project. Once you do have the person's attention, type clearly and concisely the point you are trying to get across. Check for misspelled words or improper grammar, as this will help you look more professional. Remember, this is not an instant message with your buddy outside of work. This is a professional setting. Even if you are close to a colleague such that you can joke with them, you should not type anything that you wouldn't say out loud in the office. Once you have made your point, state the timeliness in which you would like a response or when you would like to reconvene if necessary. End the conversation with a proper goodbye and thank you.
In this age of rapid technology, the telephone remains one of the staples of effective business communications. The landline phone, in particular, may be old-fashioned, but the personal touch of a human voice still has its place in an impersonal business world. This source of communication offers much better call qualities than its younger brother called the cell phone. Other than a meeting face-to-face, a phone call, be it a landline or cell phone, is the next best option in getting a personal response due to its quick and convenient response. Dr. Albert Mehrabian conducted a study in 1967 and named 3 components of effective communications. Body language accounts for 55%, voice tone for 38%, and spoken words for 7%. In the absence of the face-to-face meeting, the phone call can still exhibit certain body language, with such simple actions as standing and smiling. Clearly, the 7% offered by texting and emailing would leave the interpretation of language left to the receiver. Now that we've gone through some background on the importance of the telephone call, Here are 6 tips in effectively communicating by telephone. Tip number 1. While in the office and not on the go, one should elect in using a landline phone rather than a cell phone. In areas that don't offer reliable cell phone reception, who hasn't experienced the frustration of being on either end as caller or receiver? Tip number 2. When conveying certain sensitive information and a face-to-face isn't practical, use a telephone. Such issues as offering condolences or discussing disciplinary actions are much better served with personal phone calls since they carry much more weight than electronic communications. Particularly important for managers and executives, emails and text messages are made as legal documents and can be retrieved long after deletion. Furthermore, you should always be aware of potential hackers. You don't want information such as Social Security and credit card numbers in the hands of criminals, so make that call rather than lazily emailing or texting the information. Tip number 3. Here's a comic strip about how email may not improve communication. Did everyone read my email about how to improve our communication? Was it a long rambling email that stumbled from one barely coherent point to another? That one must have been from someone else. Good, because I didn't read it. The telephone may be effectively used in conjunction with emails. Rather than question confusing emails in a long thread that may take an upwards of half an hour to compose, you can simply pick up the phone to reach the sender and resolve the conflict and confusion interactively in less than a minute. Once the confusion is resolved, you can send a quick email for clarification to the sender as well as others involved in the thread. Tip number 4. In a business setting, unless you have caller ID and know who's on the other line, don't answer the phone with hello. People aren't calling your home, so sound professional and say something like, "This is Larry in marketing. How may I help you?" As far as the caller is concerned, the person answering a call is the organization. Tip number 5. Avoid multitasking. Stay focused on the conversation since the caller will know if you're not giving her your undivided attention. Tip number 6. As previously mentioned, the tone of your voice is often more important than the actual words used. Callers will pick up your attitude and form a mental picture of you. Take a positive approach, show enthusiasm, and offer a genuine desire to help in a warm and cheerful manner. We all have our off days, but don't let negative feelings carry over the phone.
Video conferencing technology is used to communicate with people at 2 or more locations. It allows us to see and hear each other at the same time. A two-side conference is called a point-to-point connection. When a conferencing between 3 or more sites, it becomes a multi-point connection. So, what does it take to have a successful video conference? Let us take a look. Here are some things to take care of prior to the video conference. It is rude to waste people's time, so understanding how the equipment works prior to the conference is a good idea. You can also create camera presets beforehand so that you can change camera positions often, resulting in a more interesting and active meeting. Before the video conference begins, make sure that you confirm those participating in the meeting. It is also a good idea to assign a leader for each site. Meeting materials must be distributed prior to the conference. They should include the following. Clearly stated objectives are basically in place to remind everyone what needs to be accomplished in the meeting. Having a list or a plan handy in case the meeting runs longer than you originally anticipated can be very useful. Having name tags are especially useful to avoid unnecessary conversation. As the video conference begins, follow these steps to ensure the meeting gets started on the right foot. Start by introducing yourself. Then, clearly state the meeting objectives and your agenda for the meeting, followed by asking all meeting participants to introduce themselves. Imagine that the meeting participants are sitting directly across from you and speak clearly and naturally. During the video conference, keep the following tips in mind. There is a slight delay between the time an individual speaks and the time you hear what he or she is saying. Therefore, you should allow the on-screen speaker to finish talking before you respond. Conversely, when you're finished speaking, you should pause to allow others to comment. Double talking can cause rapid switching between sites. Keep your system on mute unless you are speaking. Using the mute button prevents sites from switching unnecessarily during a voice-activated video conference and reduces the overall background noise. Just remember to unmute your microphone before you begin speaking again. You must state your name, organization, and location as a courtesy each time before you speak. If you display visuals, remember to switch the camera back when you resume discussion. Alert the other parties before sharing files, as you do not want multiple meeting participants sharing files simultaneously.
Very often, written and spoken words are the focus point of communication. But it is important to remember that nonverbal communication also occurs. Research indicates that nonverbal behavior can constitute 2/3 or more of total communication. Nonverbal signals is a very rich source of information. Therefore, nonverbal behavior can be a very helpful tool to interpret other people's behavior, respond to others, and as a means to convey certain impressions about oneself. When a message is really important, your best choice may be to schedule a face-to-face meeting. Oral face-to-face communication is the richest channel because it allows for a maximum amount of information to be transmitted through dialogue. The big advantage over other channels of communication is that face-to-face communication provides the opportunity to read another person's nonverbal behavior. Before you attend a face-to-face meeting, it is important to prepare for the meeting and plan for what you wish to communicate during the meeting. Please also offer the person you are going to meet with the opportunity to prepare for your planned meeting. In a face-to-face meeting, people can see you. Be aware of the fact that your facial expressions and body posture can make people less or more willing to communicate with you. It is very important to pay attention to what your body language communicates. Try these tips in order to incorporate confidence, trust, and credibility in your own nonverbal behavior signals. Smile. A smile communicates that you are friendly and approachable. Shake hands. This is one of the quickest ways to establish rapport. Research indicates that it takes an average of 3 hours of continuous interaction to develop the same level of rapport that you can get with a single handshake. Remove barriers between you and the other person. For example, sit next to the person or remove things that block your view of each other. Maintain positive eye contact. Direct eye contact almost always leads to greater liking and feelings of inclusion. Use palm-up hand gestures when speaking. Individuals with open gestures appear more positive and persuasive than those with closed gestures, such as crossed arms or hands hidden. Lean in slightly. Leaning forward communicates interest in the other person. But please remember to give the other person a reasonable amount of personal space. A 2 feet distance is a good measure. Synchronize your body language with that of the other person. Try to subtly match the other person's stance, arm positions, and facial expressions. When you mirror another person's nonverbal behavior, you signal that you are engaged and listening. Let's now move on to review some useful steps in the oral message sending process. Develop rapport. Put the receiver at ease. It is usually appropriate to begin communication with small talk correlated to the message. It helps to prepare the person to receive the message. State your communication objective. It is helpful for the receiver to know the desired end result of the communication before covering all the details. Transmit the message. Tell the people what you want them to do. Give clear instructions. Be sure to set deadlines for completing tasks. Take it a step at a time so you don't have information overload. Check the receiver's understanding. When communicating, We should ask direct questions and/or use paraphrasing. To simply ask, "Do you have any questions?" does not check for understanding. Get a commitment and follow up. When giving instructions, it is important to get a commitment to the action. It is important to ensure that a task can actually be completed and that a deadline can be met.
To summarize, we have covered these 5 means of business communication. In conclusion, it is clear that each means of communication has its own place, and depending on the situation, they have their benefits and drawbacks. Thus, it is important to understand when to use a certain type of communication to most effectively deliver your message to the receiver. We hope that this will better allow you to communicate in a professional setting. Thank you so much for watching this video.